Without a first-round pick and set to enter a new era under Josh Carr, what will Port Adelaide's draft plans look like for 2025? We look at the list needs they have, the players that they could target, some local prospects potentially in their sights, and heaps more on the latest episode of our AFL Club to Club series. Let's jump into our AFL Club by Club series. Next up on our list is Port Adelaide. Kind of an interesting one for them this year. They would like a first-round pick. They don't have a first-round pick given it's with Gold Coast. I think it would have been pick 8 or 9 overall. Maybe just before then. But it's they do hold selections 26, 44, and 62 overall. So only 728 points doesn't give them much hope for the draft. And also for trying to get Nazai Wangani Miller out of St Kilda, which would obviously further deplete their draft hand further. But they do have some certain list needs. They couldn't quite go to the draft too much last year. They got Joe Berry in, and Jack Whitlock was a nice kind of second selection or third selection with Christian Moraes. So they got some nice pieces last year, but probably a few more that they can add while they're kind of entering this Josh Carr era. So there's a few list needs. What do you see as probably their biggest?
Yeah, tall at either end of the ground for me. Probably more for me a tall defender, but a tall forward just as much. If you're looking at tall defenders, then I think the obvious one that we always do is the players who are out of South Australia. So Elliot Duffield could be one to look at. But from a tall forwards point of view, I think that's where the players could sit in that pick 26 range. So look at players like a Liam Heatherton who could slip as a result of that injury. I know we've linked him to a few clubs, but for a club that does want a bargain key forward when you haven't played half the season and you probably got limited, what you've done so far has been limited. Like he didn't play all of last year. He's only played a little bit of this year. Then he is one that could end up slipping. So that's one to keep an eye on from a Port Adelaide point of view. Lockie Carpenter, another key defender that I think deserves a little bit more attention. Yeah,
he's one you I think mentioned a couple of weeks ago in another club's plans, and as those sides looking for that kind of mix. Yeah, key forwards are interesting. Like Mitch Georgiades is having a career best year, and that comes without Todd Marshall in the side. And then you probably factor in, what role will Whitlock play in that mix? Do they go for a different size? Like Taranamu I don't think would be an option just given undersized from a height point of view, but with what they've already got with Mitch Georgiades. Where I'd like to think, and what Whitlock did on the weekend was fantastic in stepping into a ruck role when Ivan Soldo goes down and showing he can do that. So they've got that ruck forward hybrid. They just want a pure forward, and Liam Heatherton's probably a nice pick.
I think the thing is they need that 195 centimetre forward. And you talk about Mitch Georgiades. I think he'd be even better if he's a second forward rather than a first forward. So someone to ensure that they've given every chance to from that point of view. Their only real tied talent is potentially Ben Franco as a rookie option. Hard as nails. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree type of operator.
They are, and so what they've been able to do the last few years is get those kids through the sample program at the very least, if they're not an AFL consideration, still keep them at Alberton. I think small forwards, maybe another one. Zane Piker's a local. Taylor Burns one we've mentioned today, and kind of obviously they've got quite a wide draft range, even though it's just the 3 picks. Outside of other than a club like Richmond, who we'll chat to in next part of our series. But I think there's a couple options there for them, and a couple more locals. Maybe a Jevon Philippou, if he's in that right range for the first pick.
Whether he falls that far.
They're not going to have. They might not have the biggest grasp on where Zach Butters is playing futures, but it's always good to have that next line of midfielders. Max Kondo-Giannis, I think I mentioned before, but they've got a couple of options there for their draft haul in what is probably going to be a quieter draft night for the Power than most years, but I guess they'll be pretty distracted if they do manage to land Nazai Wangani Miller